We're gonna keep the time tight this evening as I got softball at 9:30 this evening. So
Oh
it's a late
wow.
start. Yeah, I know we got a game under the lights. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Woodward Tigers here at woodwardsports.com. I'm Rogelio still alongside me is Yooper. Brown will be along with us shortly as we are watching the Erie Seawolves and Akron game 2 of a doubleheader, as this is a makeup game from, I believe, July 1st. And so we just wanted to tune in a little bit before we start getting the podcast here. Adam Wolf takes the hill, and Erie is in a playoff race as they're trying to get to the postseason for the first time, I think, since 2015, I believe I want to say. So a lot to talk about, including the breaking news as we're going on to the podcast. The content gods once again served us well, as Jackson Jobe will be making his West Michigan debut as soon as possibly, from my understanding, what Chris said earlier, Tuesday. That was my fault. I tweeted it out, and it was supposed to be Tuesday, not Sunday. So, but as far as the big club goes, there's some couple things going on, but that's the biggest news because Yooper, I don't know if you noticed how many transactions and call-ups have taken place at all in the last
Hmm.
several days among the system. Have you been paying attention to it at all?
I have seen part of it. Yes.
Yeah, so there's been a lot of going on, even tonight with Garrett Burhan starting for the Whitecaps. He's just up from Lakeland. So there's that. There's just a series. And then we saw that Tarek School had successful surgery, which kind
They're
of
all
bummed out.
successful.
Yeah. Oh, they're you ever seen a picture of a bad one?
Yeah, exactly. That's the old joke. It'd be fun to have the surgeon come out one time and say, "Man, I just didn't have my A game today. I just
Yeah.
wasn't quite ready."
Yeah, there's a picture. There's some vague picture of somebody just going like this, making the face like, did I screw that up? Yeah. Jeremy, what's going on?
Well,
So
let's hope it truly was successful.
I squeezed a lot of prep in today because, yeah, today I just got back about 1 o'clock this afternoon from the northern parts of Indiana, and I was able to get some sleep and relax a little bit. The allergies were going haywire the last couple days, and so, but I'm full of getting the allergy and antihistamine, or I can't even say that stuff.
What
Allergy
is the
medication.
what is the highlight of camping in northern Indiana?
I think the highlight of camping was, I would have to say, I bought a Nerf football, one of the screamer ones. That was pretty cool because we were able to throw that, chuck that around. But I think mainly
Nice.
it was able to kind of looking at my steps. I did 3 or 4 miles a day. I walked quite a bit. I walked a lot, and I was able to finish a book. So that to me is saying something,
Ah,
because my phone, I didn't barely any signal where I was, and then Animal there strikes out, and so the Seawolves head to the top of the yep, top of the third. That's right, because this is considered a away game. I think that's how it works. But anyway, but yeah, I was able to relax, and because of no signal, I was able to focus more on that. So which was nice. But I went in the town a few times. The Angolia, Indiana Starbucks was very kind. I had to go out there for a few runs, importantly, some personal related kind of stuff. But yeah, I used the Wi-Fi out there. I was able to catch up and get some notes. And Tigers looked like they had a strange inning last night. We'll get to, and
oh yeah.
yeah, there's a lot to get to with that. But yeah, so Jackson Jobe will be up with the team, and they're continuing to show some aggression on their call-ups ever since Al Avila left. We got a lot of questions to get to as well. So I'm texting Chris right now. We are
So Jackson Jobe, if he comes up, it's going to be roughly the 20th of August. How many starts do you think he's in line for? Like 4?
I think the West Michigan season ends second week of September. So yeah, probably 4. So if you were anybody out there, I would highly suggest going to go see him.
Mm-hmm.
So and that's the thing. I'm just kind of curious is if this whole, we'll get some more information about it at some point. Is it now that Avila's gone, like, just bring them everybody up, or is this something that was planned for a while now? But I like to think that if you look at I was looking here for the in terms of call ups. So the Tigers also acquired somebody when I was gone, Ricardo Sanchez, a Philly, a lefty from Philadelphia, which seems like it's just minor league fodder depth.
Yeah.
I'm not really sure,
Yeah.
or just another arm to put out there. So then as far as moving up is concerned, yeah, there was quite a bit from West Michigan. Excuse me, from the what am I drawing a blank now?
Lakeland.
Yeah, Lakeland, the complex league. So Lakeland, and then Trev Michael, who's a Tigers 10th round draft pick, is now in West Michigan. So we'll cover all that here in a second as we're waiting for Chris to jump on. But what happened yesterday with that inning, Yooper? What the hell happened in the 8th inning last night? I saw the highlights of it. I'm still scratching my head about it.
You know, remember a few weeks back, we just happened I don't know how we got onto it, but we kind of recounted the infamous Bonderman meltdown inning in the Metrodome that one time when he was rolling and everything went wrong. Last night was kind of similar. It was also the 8th inning, coincidentally. Tigers up 2. Chafin looked great. You know, he struck out the first 2 batters. We're thinking, I was ready to start doing a couple things around the house between innings, and he strikes out the 3rd batter. But of course, wild pitch gets to the backstop. Runner gets to first, and then just everything went wrong. I mean, it was a decent little single up the middle, nothing special. Only got first and second, 2 out. They pulled Chafin. You know, he's known as a guy who can get both-handed batters out. I didn't see the point of pulling him there to chase the matchup because he had struck out 3 of the 4 guys he faced. But they pulled him, and then it was, a couple of bloops, an infield single, basically a swinging bunt. And all of a sudden the game was tied. Then they did get a couple of legit hits, and it was over. So it was just one of those things. The bloop ground rule double, another bloop double in front of Badu. Some people think he should have at least dove for it and made a little better effort. I'm not going to argue with someone who does. He kind of let up on it a little early, I thought. The swinging bunt, though, was the killer. Lane came in, made a great pitch. Guy took a big hack, barely touched it, but it was a number right into the right spot, and kept the inning going. So it's a good thing. It's a year where it doesn't really matter. If this had been a year where they're in a tight race, we would look back on that inning. That would have been a real heartbreaker.
Yeah, and luckily the Tigers are 30 games out of 500 to not make a difference. And so to cover up let's just cover all the West Michigan transactions here. So the Whitecaps, the bloop emoji, the what are you going to do moment came out there. So Jack Olafhagen is going to be on a 7-day IL. So then we see with Trevor Michael coming up and Jackson Jobe, Garrett Burhan, the former Ohio State pitcher, is up. He's pitching right now. The Whitecaps released Andrew Shaps. They activated Eduardo Valencia. Shaps was at Great Lakes, and then they just decided to drop him. And Cooper Johnson, who saw several times and thought would be a decent defensive liability, but he couldn't get his offense together. So
that move surprised me a little.
You think so? I mean, I don't know. The reason why it didn't surprise me is because I feel like with the Tigers, they've signed a lot of minor league catchers in the last 2 or 3 months. So that's where my mindset was with that.
He kept. I remember him from college. He was Mississippi, right? Or Mississippi State. I think Mississippi. Really great arm, good defensive catcher. Those guys usually tend to hang around. So, but you're right. They have some numbers. And I guess if it's a numbers game, the guys who can hit, who they think might hit, are going to stay.
But you know what, though, Yooper, I will say this. One of the things, and when Chris will be joining us here in a few minutes, one of the things I do like the fact that we're seeing something now where the Tigers are just saying, you know what, we're not going to get out of here. Get out of here. I mean, not to be that harsh about it, but at this point, you're looking at with Avila gone, some of the old, maybe some of the Avila picks or influence picks or whatever the case is. Again, this is all just educated speculation.
Yeah. No.
But if you think about it, Yooper, there's a lot of things that we talked about last week about making decisions on who to call up next for Double A or those things for that matter.
Mm-hmm.
There is a definite. I think there's a change where you're going to start. There's going to be even more when the offseason is. You're going to see guys who've been maybe here for a long time in the minor leagues be gone.
So when you say something like that, that makes me wonder, do they feel that either it's an internal hire or someone who's close enough to Hinch that, the main guys are staying on? And, the new direction is going to come from you're right, kind of just washing away the Avila people. And, the new guys are, but, the people they've hired in the last year are really calling the shots.
Yeah, and where Van Gogh makes a good call here about, I've heard, not since I heard about Jake Rogers, I think it was maybe early June when we were in the dugout with AJ Hinch. He was saying that Rogers had a potentially could come back at the end of the year, but I haven't seen, or there's usually Terry down there will have some sort of random picture or something, but it's been nothing. Like I haven't seen anything or heard anything about Jake Rogers in quite some time, but tomorrow I'm going down to the ballpark, so I might ask about that.
Well, I cannot recall ever a position player missing a full season because of Tommy John. I mean, that never happens. I mean, those guys come back at some point in the following season.
Because it's been a year. Well, he had the surgery last August, right?
I'm pretty sure you're right. August.
So I'm curious to know if it's just I know he was throwing. Well, we saw him throw a few months ago, something like that. To the fact he was playing catch or something.
Yeah, I believe it's really mysterious. I would have guessed he'd be playing somewhere, if not Detroit, somewhere by now.
Yeah, we're doing some rehab time at least in Lakeland or West Michigan at some point, but nothing. Yeah, that is no. Word Van Gogh brings up a good point on YouTube. There, it is eerily quiet, and there's a certain thing about whether if it's a Avila guy or whatever, and that's gonna happen here probably for the next few months. It's just gonna see, okay, well, where did the organization now do with him versus before? So we'll see what happens there. But yeah, that's a name honestly I've forgotten about that a little bit. I'm not gonna lie. Yeah.
Well, last year Hinch was very openly, publicly critical of his catching skills early on. Yeah. But then when he showed up in Detroit, he was hitting, which was kind of a little bit of a surprise for a lot of folks. So I don't. Yeah, that's going to be very fun to watch how that evolves in the next few months.
And speaking of how things are going to evolve, look at what happened in Texas this week with John Daniels getting fired.
15 years out.
Yeah. So first and foremost, Chris Woodward, the manager, got fired. And so then from there, it's just that's going to be a systematic cleaning house by Chris Young. And so two ideas collide or crashing. I don't know, but definitely going to see some more changes down with the Rangers too. And that kind of surprised me a little bit, honestly, Yooper, because Daniels, for what it's worth, I mean, he has done some trades where or signings where they spent a lot of money in this offseason. And that's been Texas's MO going back with the A-Rod situation, although that was Daniels' thing. But either way, yeah, there's been a lot of those big moves they make.
It's just you just think back. They were one strike and one catch away from the World Series. Didn't get it. And, but John Daniels was a young, up-and-coming GM. You think that, they're going to be around for a while. He's the guy to steer the ship. And they ran into their troubles, too. And just shows you how hard it is to build a consistent winner and keep a championship-level ball club on a field.
Yeah, and that kind of ties into what the Braves are doing right now, signing Michael Harris to a $72 million extension. That's another one where the Braves are just –
that's amazing.
Yeah, the Braves are keeping their young talent core. And one of those contracts are one of those things where they're not going to be anchors within a year as they appreciate. If they wanted to make trades, they could. So I got to give credit to the Braves and just addressing that pretty quickly.
I was shocked to see that deal come about, only because if you think back a couple of years, all the criticism the agents for Acuna and especially Ozzy Albies, they took a lot of criticism for those deals, because especially Albies deal is a little bit light, I thought, and a lot of people thought. And so I wasn't sure they'd be able to secure another guy like that, but they got Harris. And when you look at the numbers, Harris would have made minimum money for 3 years. Now he's going to make about, on average, $10 million a year. And then he's got his first 2 years of free agency bought out, but he's a young guy. I can kind of see why they do it. But again, it seems like a really nice deal for the Braves. They got Riley locked up too, but they actually put I thought, some real deal money into that contract.
Definitely. And that just gives the opportunity. If you look at the division as a whole right now in the NL East, Miami is going to be a team that's not going to exactly spend. They'll be competitive because they have a pretty good farm system, but are they going to spend to keep the core together? The answer, the recent history has suggested no. Right. So is Miami going to be somebody's going to worry about? I think the only teams you got to worry about are the Mets and the Phillies. I think the Phillies are going to find a way to get back in the competitive nature under Dave Dombrowski, and the Mets they're gonna do all they can to spend the much money as possible with a few prospects they have, like Brent
Beatty,
who's having a really good year for New York. So they're going to do a combination of both to keep themselves competitive, and the Braves are just going to wave after wave of prospects that are just that system's so ridiculous, Yooper. It's ridiculous, and I've said that redundantly, but it's honestly, you run out of what can I say the word? Adjectives. There you go.
Yeah. Well, the guy who was it Gordon, his name? He's kind of on some of the watch lists for the Tiger job.
Yes. Is it Dana Brown or Dana Gordon?
Brown. Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah. They certainly have a great pipeline into Latin America. So if he's the kind of guy who can help the Tigers establish a better system down there, more productive, I don't think anybody would argue with that.
No, they can't. And although you could find an argument for the Tigers' top 30 rankings on MLB pipeline. So the top 30 was released, I believe, today or yesterday. A bunch of prospect lists were coming out. Baseball America has the Tigers organization one we'll get to in a second. But so the top 30 goes Jackson Joe B number 1. Well, I think we have enough time to run through this pretty quickly. Joe, Jace Young, Wilmer Flores number 3, Ty Madden, Peyton Graham number 5, Cole Keith number 6, Kreidler, Pacheco, Olsen, and Dingler round out the top 10, followed by Santana, Campos, Garrett Hill, which will probably change anyway soon. Dylan Smith, Kerry Carpenter coming in 15, Perez, Austin Bergner, Parker Meadows, Trey Melton already in the top 20, followed by Luke Gold. And then the 21 through 30 goes as follows. The Mango Sakura, Abiel Bastidas, who had a really good game today, had a game-winning home run in Complex League Ball. Hurdler, Lipsius, Wentz, Tyler Madsen, Elvis Alvarado, who's had a really good year, is out of the bullpen. De La Cruz, Javier Osorio, and Josh Crouch comes in at number 30. So, yes, I would agree with you, Word Vance. The lack of international talent is a big-time glare here. But as far as the top 30 goes, I mean, when we try to do the comparison to our top 30, it's a lot of these guys are going to have some input from the organization. They're going to have other – so this is a list where it can be easily dissected and ripped apart. But in reality, I know that most baseball fans will go – and for us, Yooper, I don't know. I have a couple issues with it, but
yeah, you can always pick it apart. There's no question. I was surprised they had kept Kreidler where they did, because he's been having a bit of a rough year. I do wonder though how much they give him, if they give him a little leeway because of the hand injury, because when you have a broken hand, broken thumb, to me, that almost makes his offensive year half a write-off because he's probably fighting some real strength issues in that hand. So I think the year is kind of lost for him. Hopefully next year that this is healed and he's back on track. So I was really hoping that he might, not that he was going to be a big star, but that he might find his way to Detroit this year. And I don't think that's going to happen now. Pacheco, I might have had a couple spots higher. And I was surprised Perez didn't move up a little further.
Yeah, me too. And I think with Perez, there's a lot of things you got to be happy about. And we talked about this before. The amount of consistency he's had this year in terms of the at-bats. On the field, he's struggled, but that's been his thing. But I would thought that Perez would be a little higher. And that is, I'm not going to waive that as an international signing victory yet because we don't know he's done in the major league level yet.
Right.
But among the international talents, he is the only one above AA or over high A and above currently. So Flores was a international, not an international free agent signing, but he was signed out of college. So I mean, he was only spent a couple of years here from Venezuela, but still, the point remains is absolutely true. The Tigers still have not been able. We can talk about the cows get home about that, but either way, that is very glaring. And what's also glaring is the 2022 midseason organization talent rankings by Baseball America. And did you see the list, Yooper?
I have not.
Okay, so I'm gonna have you take two guesses on where the Tigers ranked.
Oh, at Baseball America.
Mm-hmm.
I know Pipeline had him at 24.
Pipeline had him at 24? Okay.
Pipeline had him at 24. Baseball America, I'm going to guess they're even a little more critical because I think they tend to be a little more critical. I'll say 25.
Ooh, so close.
Wrong!
So close. It was 27th.
27th. Oof.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
Well, my first thought on that is, they can split hairs a million different ways. The difference between 25th and 28th is probably not that big. You're down pretty low.
Yeah, there's that was what I got here according to somebody's asking 28th and no, it was 27th. So yeah, again, after Riley Green graduated, there was going to be a drop off. You still see Torkelson is still not a prospect anymore, but as far as why the Tigers are 27th, as far as top 100 prospects go, you have Jackson Jobe, you have Wilmer Flores, you have Jace Young. And again, I mean, you could talk about, Kerry Carpenter being a bright spot, what have you, but still, if you're not producing regular hitters, what does it matter?
To me, I'm still one of the things I'm most bummed about all summer was that Colt Keith got hurt. And we couldn't see where he was going to take that good season because he had a really steady drumbeat of success there those first couple of months. He would have been in Erie by now, right? I mean, would you agree?
Yeah, I definitely think when Corey Joyce got the call up from West Michigan, there was you know what, Jeremy? I have no answer why the hell Peyton Graham was ahead of Colt Keith. Maybe because the potential behind it. I don't know. Colt Keith has one of the best seasons as a minor leaguer, and the Tigers have, from a positional player standpoint, in quite some time. His WRC plus was well over 100 the entire season. He was hitting the ball with power and for average, and his walk rate was fine. I don't know. That to me, that was one of those things where I just didn't understand it. Again, I'm really high on Colt Keith. I might be the low man or one of the few on that, but either way, I agree with you, Yooper. It would have been nice to see what potentially he could have offered to the table on a consistent basis. I think he would have been up at Erie at this point. But as far as Campos goes, Campos has had a really good year. He's changed his swing dynamics, and he's hitting for much more consistency. He's hit a lot of doubles this year. I think that if he's going to start the season at West Michigan, he'll probably start with hopefully some other of the international prospects they have down in Lakeland, keep them together. I think in this case, it makes sense to keep them together because it just seemed like they have had a good bond down there. And when
Mhm.
you see them down in Lakeland, they're always, in the few days I was out there, it seemed like it was a tight knit group. So as far as Campos, I think Campos has raised his profile a little bit because he's been able to. He doesn't have an all or nothing swing. The swing's been much more consistent, and he is, in terms of walks. I mean, you would like to see the walk rate higher, but that's just, again, maybe it's at 8%, which is, comparatively speaking, somebody like Sequeira, who's I think at 3 or 4% or something like that. You want to see a little better, but as far as Campos goes, seeing him live, he's still, I mean, on the year this month, he's batting 220, but he's still having WRC plus over 100. So, I mean, he's hanging out with the other Latino players like Santana. You see him with Sequeira. You see him; they're all a very close knit group. So, when you see him,
for me, Campos, he's actually a good little test case for us about if there's any difference in how the Avila guys are treated versus the newer batches of guys are treated, because obviously they spent a lot of money on him, but that was all under the Avila, Chad, so on regime. But hopefully he's young enough and talented enough where it doesn't matter who brought him in. they want to see what he can develop into.
Yeah, I mean, you forget too that he just turned 19. He just turned 19 in June, so there's plenty of time to work with there. And again, some of the, in terms of miles per hour, he's hit over 100 quite a bit. So he's got good exit velocity. So that's a positive sign. And he's not making weak contact or anything. Even like I said, even on the half a swing, I saw down against the Bradenton, the Marauders, I still ended up being in center field.
Nice.
So, I mean, same thing with Parker Meadows. Parker Meadows has been having a great year. Matter of changing his hands, even the toe tap thing I highlighted on Twitter. That's something that was first and foremost mentioned by Jason Beck and Lynn Henning earlier in the year, and we've just kind of paid attention to it. And I think even with the way his swing plane looks, it's just a matter of consistency and barreling up better. He's hitting the ball harder, that's for sure.
Yeah,
there's data to suggest that.
It's just so. I want to believe. I've been having such a hard time making myself consider him part of the future, because he just seems so dead in the water career-wise at West Michigan for so long. It's wonderful to see him doing this, but I just can't get myself to trust it yet. But you're right, he's made some substantial changes to his technique, so that may is something to consider, that maybe it is real, because certainly we all want it to be.
Yeah, and I admit that at one point, with the way things were going last year, it was when we went to go see everybody else, like, oh, Parker Meadows is up. And not that we were being snotty about it. It was just like, okay, well, we know what we have here. And there was a couple things to like. Towards the end of the year, we weren't sure how, between myself and Chris, how much of that was going to be consistent going forward into this year. But look, I mean, as far as Parker Meadows goes, this is a guy who's been in the organization since he got drafted out of high school. So to see this now, I think he's 20. He'll be 23 in November. So he's getting up there in terms of prospect age. But again, right at the right time. And this is because he's Rule 5 eligible for December. And that's where,
yeah,
there's going to be a lot of different decisions they have to make on that soon. And that's where the Tigers have to. This is where you're going to see the true side of, okay, those guys are who they really, how you think of. It also depends. If they go eternal, like Sam Mezen is going to be the next GM, we'll see. I don't know. But if they go external, then it might be a different process where it's just kind of like, because a new GM might want to make his own impression. But again, like I said, somebody that's worked with him before. We talked about that. Josh Burns is an example of that, but there's other candidates also considered too, and we'll get to that when probably more next week. But Kerry Carpenter looked like he got off the Schnein, Yooper. So exactly was it? I saw one of his home runs was a high fastball, and he just crunched it.
It was a high fastball, but it wasn't the high fastball out of the zone that he was swinging at those first 3 games that he was in, where he just couldn't lay off something that was at his chest. He's gotten a little more patient, drawn a couple walks, just has settled in, and good for him. Who knows what it's going to end up with this year? He might hit 190. He might hit 290. We'll see. But you can just see he's brought a little bit of selectivity back into his game a little at the plate, and it's paid off in a couple of games.
Yeah, it's again one of those things where, as far as getting the first couple at bats I saw him at home, yeah, he looked like he was just like, wow, this is really happening kind of thing. But he's gotten over it pretty well. And right now he has 2 home runs. So the reason why I mentioned that, it was a stat that Chris posted on Woodward Tigers when I was on vacation in terms of outfielders. And there was a stat too that the Tigers, I think it was Lindsey Adler, as a team has an average WRC plus of 76, which is equivalent to a backup catcher. Ooh. Man, that's I mean, that's depressing. I mean, there's no other way to say it, but in terms of an offensive numbers speaking, this team, when you look at the power numbers in the outfield, Yooper, I've never, as a home run collective, let's look at it from a home run collective. The Tigers have in their outfield 14 home runs.
Yeah.
But you know what's funny? They're not even the worst. Cleveland is, but there's a difference. Yeah. Cleveland has 12 from their outfield, but they have a WAR 4.4 because defensively they have a pretty good outfield.
And they got a guy who gets on base anyway, right? Kwon gets on base.
Yeah. Yeah. Say what you will about his late hitting ability. He does get on base, but it's pretty depressing when the next best team is the Padres at 31. I
saw another fun stat this week. The Braves, out of the 9-hole, their 9-hole in their lineup has a collective 823 OPS. And I was playing around with some numbers, and another guy was on Twitter. I was trying to find if we could fit 2 positions in the Tiger lineup to add up below that. Couldn't quite do it. But it was easy to try to see where you could work that out.
Now, here's the thing that I wanted to, so speaking of the Braves, I'm glad you mentioned it. Robbie Grossman's off to, there's something that I know Tiger fans are doing this now more than ever, and it's really kind of, I'm not gonna lie, it's rather annoying because, well, as soon as they leave here, they're having better success. Well, no shit. You think about it this way: you're playing for a team that is not playing for anything. Okay, you're going out there, you're doing your job, and then they're like, well, it's got the reason why he's doing better is Scott Coolbaum. He's not around him anymore. Knock it off. That's not true. Knock it off. He was the one who went out of his way to say he changed his own swing. There's evidence he has said this.
Yep.
All right. Stop with it's just like we're going to analyze every single ex-Tiger that leaves here and then all of a sudden go, we're off to greater glory and just do these stupid tweets where we're just going to sit there and remind how stupid this organization is. It's not the organization's fault that he didn't do jack here. Okay.
We'll have to call it the Gonzo effect for Luis Gonzalez.
Oh, that's a good one. That's look, I wish I had a better explanation why since he's left his ISO's at 320. I wish I had a better explanation. The only thing I can tell you is this: he's playing for a team that's better.
Yeah.
Imagine. Okay, so think about it this way: you're pitching to Jeimer Candelario in the lineup. Okay, imagine that the Tigers have no power threats in the lineup whatsoever. That means you can pitch whatever you want to these guys. Yep. You think so? Grossman's probably seeing better pitch selection. Am I right, Yooper?
I would imagine. Yes. I mean, I'd like to know how many times has he come to bat and Ronald Acuna's on deck.
Yeah.
or
Hello.
Whoever,
The Braves lineup is 5 times better. Of course, you're going to see better pitch selection. Come on.
Plus we're also looking at it's like 25 at bats. I mean, it's nothing.
Yeah.
He might go 1 for his next 15 too. We don't know.
It's just it doesn't. It to me, last year was a completely different year for him. Whatever he did last year worked. This year it doesn't work. He had a bad year. Tigers trade him for essentially a lottery ticket pitcher. And then every night it's just like, well, he's hitting right-handers better. Here we go. Like,
Yeah.
give me a whole year of that. Give me a year of that. Give me a year, or the Trace Thompson thing. Look,
oh, that's even worse.
That's even worse because again, we have no idea whether whoever decided to bring Trace Thompson in and they were overruled by it. Maybe that's what was downfall of Vila. Vila was like, nah, I don't want him here. And who knows? But
yeah.
San Diego let him go too. So it's not like it's not a Detroit situation either.
Well, and the thing is, Trace Thompson, they got 45 wins right now. If they had kept Trace Thompson, they'd have 46, maybe. Who cares?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just not a big deal. He had a good month for the Dodgers. Well, congratulations, but it's essentially meaningless. Trace Thompson will be a memory for the Dodgers next year because they have such a deep system. He's a placeholder.
Yeah. It's a great find. We can talk about it all day long till the cows come home, but yeah, there's just nothing to it. So I don't think to analyze every single time the Tigers, you can do that easily. You can sit there and it's easy to do. It's laying it up a little bit, but I'm not going to sit here all day and just go, well, we knew that Trace Thompson was going to be something. No one did. Not me, not anybody. Cut it out. Knock it off. All right, it's time for the inside the number. Yooper, what is your inside the number?
I have 1 and 690. Today was pretty cool. Albert Pujols with a pinch hit grand slam home run. Nice. The first of his career. Number 1. First time he'd ever pinch hit with the bases loaded and knocked one out. And that was number 690 for his career. And the 11th this season. So it doesn't look like he's going to get to 700 based on how much he's playing this year. Was really hoping he'd make a push at 7. Just because to get that big round number out of the way would be pretty cool. Some people are speculating, does he try to come back for another year and play that bench role? I don't know if he would do that just to chase 700 though. But he's got he's got an 814 OPS this year. He's not been a bad ball player for them in a limited capacity.
And maybe that's what it was. Maybe that's the fact that we're sitting here looking at how he's been used as an example. I mean, Miguel's been more of a regular than Pujols, and there's the stark difference right there. But then again, I don't think Pujols has been as injury prone.
Right.
Without looking it up, the difference between how their injuries have paralleled and what have you. So
he has 218 plate appearances so far this year. So, Miguel's way above that, right? I mean, he had to be 3 something.
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, there's that. So my inside number this week involves the number 10, and that would be the long side of Reese Olson, who looks like he's gotten back in the form for the Seawolves as they need him to, as he was struggling the last couple months. And then somebody tonight was like, well, going him up to Toledo. Well, it's just been a recent thing, so calm down. And Toledo's fine. Erie's in a thick of a playoff race. Toledo is not. It's okay. We can get all yeah. So his line tonight, by the way, 6 innings, 4 hits, 1 run, and 8 strikeouts. So the other number is 2. So he's allowed just 2 runs his last 2 starts.
Nice.
And can't really argue the results. And again, there's a interesting. Go ahead, Yooper.
Even when he was struggling a bit this year, I thought that the strikeout numbers were always pretty solid. So I mean, he was missing bats.
Yeah.
So to me, it was just let him pitch and see if he pitches his way out of this. And now he's starting to.
There's an interesting argument among the prospect community. Like Trevor Ruth is really high on him from Bless You Boys. I'm relatively high on him, but again, we have some people say, well, he needs more of a fastball, and rightfully so. You need fastball command. It's everything. And all right, well, if he's still pitching as well, is he a reliever? Is he a starter? Right now, he's going out there pitching. I mean, the Tigers are extending their starters. If we have, like, Madden had 90 pitches last week.
Mhm.
Tonight he threw 91 pitches, 60 of them for strikes. So, yeah, and here's the thing, like this in Chance Kirby too, and Walter brings up a good point about Chance Kirby, who's been really well and has been a stalwart for the Seawolves in terms of rotation. He's been giving them a steady presence, and then they also got Daniel Norris back, so
Yeah.
that worked out well. He's actually pitched not too bad for the Tigers, and that's as
He
far
pitched
as
a nice game the other night.
yeah.
I watched pretty much all but one inning of his outing. You know, is his command perfect? No, but it's not. He is. How old is he now? Is he 30?
I think so, yeah.
But whatever he is, he's probably not going to fix the command to everybody's satisfaction, right? Because he is who he is. But I'll tell you, he threw enough strikes. He has enough movement to compete. I thought it was a nice outing.
Oh, that cut out there. Okay, sorry, cut out there. No,
Right.
Norris is interesting because his slider spin rate's been really good. When he's not using his fastball primarily as his main pitch, his slider, his other pitch, I think it's a changeup. I think he's been using, and it's worked out pretty well. So can't really argue the results of it, and especially with what the Tigers have been able to get out of their starters. And it was Chris Bukowski posted a really, really, really cool stat the other day about what they've been able to do with their injuries. And this is why if there was medals, if there was like gold, like medals to put on a jacket, as far as what the Tigers should get or get for their players or anything like that, I think right now Chris Fetter's jacket would be just covered in medals and always just littered with medals, because as far as some of the starts will go, it is let me pull it down here. I'm just trying to. By the way, tomorrow night I wanted to mention that Carlos Guillen, not that Carlos Guillen, the media relations coordinator, will be doing the game tomorrow for Fiesta Tigres. You can check it out with Marty Motas, who's doing colors. So yeah, it's going to be a big night down there. I can't wait. And the game will be on 1480 AM La Explosive. La Explosive. That's an AM station, which there's two AM stations in town, by the way, but the way it's celebrated down there, it doesn't seem that way. But anyway, I'll digress. So let me find that stat now. I'm trying to go through the timeline, but I just thought I'd mention that real quick because I will be down there for that. I'm pretty stoked for it. As I look, I don't really talk about this very often, but I take pride in the fact I'm the only Hispanic reporter in town. Actually, I think about it.
Is that right?
Yeah, one of maybe two, maybe. I don't know, but I don't know. I take pride in that. Anyway.
Yeah.
I can't find it now. It was a stat about what he's been able to do the last 6 weeks as terms of the starters are ranked, and it's pretty amazing that the fact that the Tigers are able to stay in these games with like pretty much no name pitching staff right now. You have injuries across the board to everybody. Excuse me. Yeah, Erod is going to be pitching on Sunday, which is a good welcome thing, and that gives them a veteran starter. Oh, like an actual really good one. But yeah, and you look, and Walter brings up a good point here too. Yeah, I never seen get so much on the minor league arms when we had injuries to the starters and pitching before. Think how worse this would be without that. And you know what, Walter? I can say this with confidence. I've never seen this before, ever. Out of any Tiger team I've ever encountered. The 1996 team comes to mind, but there's the 2003 team, Yooper. Remember how many arms there were that were just
Eric Eckenstaller.
Yeah, they were throwing They're throwing arms on the wall, and nothing was working whatsoever. And so, yeah.
And it's funny. I was going to answer Walter's question. If if you would have told us what would have happened, what was about to happen back in early April, you would have said, well, this is going to turn into 1996 and the worst ERA in team history. If you knew this was all going to happen, but it hasn't. And certainly it is to Fedor's credit and the Tigers' credit to get usability out of the Bo Briskys and the Garrett Hills and also the Hutchisons of the world. It's been pretty good. It hasn't been a lot to celebrate this year, but I do give him a lot of credit for hanging in there with the ragtag bunch and making it go with all of these injuries just stacking up seemingly every 10 days, some new calamity. And hopefully it's a year that we don't have to watch ever again, but I have a feeling next year there's a lot of these guys who were mini bright spots are going to be called upon again to give them some major innings because, obviously Skubal's not going to be back anytime soon. Mize, will we see him before August? I don't know. So hopefully Garrett Hill and Bo Brisky are ready for more action next year.
They should be because, this is a stat found by Chris Mikowski. Since July 21st, the Tigers are starting pitchers ranked 6th in the majors and 3rd in the American League with a 3.31 ERA. So 130.1 innings pitched, 48 earned runs.
Wow.
That is, again, this is a rotation that has. This is so you're talking here. Garrett Hill with 5 starts, Drew Hutchinson 5, Tyler Alexander, Brian Garcia, yeah. Brian Garcia, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sorry, Brian Garcia.
Yeah.
Look, man, we wrote you off. That is my bad. I'll take responsibility for that. Well done. Well, seriously, well done.
No question about it. Well, the last time that he left as a reliever, I would have easily bet you $100 with anybody that he's never going to be in a Tiger uniform again. Yeah.
No. If Yooper, we all, anybody who's saying that, oh yeah, I expected this out of Brian Garcia is full of crap. Get out of here with that nonsense. The only person that believed him himself was Brian Garcia and some people in the organization.
Yeah.
So unlike other podcasts, whatever, we'll admit when we're wrong. That's we take pride in that, quite frankly. So that right there. And then among that, Matt Manning's looked really good. Tarek Skubal in that same time period. Ryan Garcia and Daniel Norris. So seriously, Fedor if Fedor had a varsity jacket, it would be just literally, you hear walking down the hallway like the cling. That guy in high school you knew, or the
yes.
There's always it was a male and also a female too who had like its jacket just clinged with metals. Chris Fedor would have the biggest varsity jacket on campus right now. So,
so who's back next year in April? I mean, what's that rotation going to look like in April? We got to assume Eduardo Rodriguez is healthy and is not disappeared, right? You got him. Manning, if assuming the shoulder's okay. Then where you go? Hill?
I go Hill. I go Brisky.
Is Faedo back from the hip?
No, I don't think he's going to be back till the middle of the year, maybe.
Really?
I think so. I think what's going to happen is it's either going to add another arm through free agency, someone like a veteran, maybe perhaps a veteran, or they give somebody like Wilmer Flores a shot. I don't know. Yooper, this is going to be a really good question to revisit here in 3 months.
Yeah.
Once the season's over with, because you can debate about Olsen,
Tyler Alexander.
Yeah. And Tyler Alexander, look, we saw last year his numbers were better as a reliever. This year he's going back to a starter and he's just getting a job done. Look, Walter, to address your question about what the Woodward Sports has, they had some lofty expectations. I think we've been pretty consistent since day one. This team wasn't going to be world beaters, but I didn't think it was going to be this bad. And everybody over there has the right to their thing. I love Adam. Those guys they're a fantastic crew, and they are. I love those guys, and they've given me an opportunity, given us an opportunity to be on a better platform and what have you. So, but that being said, we're honest about. I think we've been honest about where the Tigers are going to be at. And Turnbull, yeah, you know what? Turnbull's somebody.
Oh,
Michael, yeah, Michael. I forgot about that. That's a good one.
Good call.
Turnbull would probably be another one we can expect to be probably maybe the back end. They're going to have to ease him into it. This is a problem, though. You can't just put him out there and expect them to go at full tilt right away. I mean, we've seen the injuries, how that's been happening this year. It's not just the Tigers, it's across the league. But honestly, Yooper, do you expect? I expect at least one or two signings to happen at least.
Oh, you have to imagine that. And again, it depends on where the GM comes from. But the new person is going to want to put their stamp on things. I also imagine. I have to believe Illich doesn't have the stomach for another full-on rebuild, to say, hey, we're going to write off a season and put this back together. I would imagine they're going to go after some players that can help them win next year. Because, here's the thing, the dirty little secret. I've been seeing people on Twitter who are fairly knowledgeable observers saying, oh, they're done again till 25, whatever. I don't think that's necessarily the case. I think you could put together a winning ball club next year. But obviously they're not going to be able to sit on their hands and do it. They're going to have to go out and spend a little more money again. And I know a lot of people think they won't, but I don't know. I could see them dabbling in free agency one more time.
Yeah, it's necessary. It is absolutely necessary because you don't know what you have with Resource and you don't know what you have with Flores yet. And it's not fair to put them in there right now because the Tigers, again, we don't know, even if it's internal. Let's say it's Sam Mezen, for example. They might have different ideas in terms of how they're going to structure the team. They might think that Flores might get another year in Erie, but at the same time, for his age and what he's doing, I mean, he's handled Erie pretty well. So where else it should go? And it looks like right now the Tigers have not Tigers are not afraid to just put somebody up and be more aggressive about it. So
and the way people are getting hurt, you might as well be aggressive with them because every pitch a guy throws, he's one pitch closer to getting hurt.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, that's just sadly that's how it is in the world of pitching. So if his stuff is good enough, let's go. Let's give him a shot.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, the fact that we're seeing some of these, the way the draft is set up right now, you don't really have a lot of time after the draft to get these players going and seeing more time, unlike previous drafts. So I would love for the draft to go back the way it was because I think a lot of, and we've heard some other people say the same thing. Yeah. So that way, right now, everybody's just scrambling right now, just getting lists up, and it's just ridiculous. So, but either way. Still waiting we're gonna have probably Chris jump on here in a second to take over questions, but let's go into our second segment. All right, it's now time for the good, the bad, and the ugly. Yooper, what is your good, the bad, the ugly this week?
Well, my good is something a lot of Tiger fans probably won't agree with because we've always treated the Angels as like the Detroit Tiger boogeyman. But I am interested for the Angels to come to town this week because Trout is supposed to reappear on Friday, and Ohtani is pitching on Sunday. And, Trout and Ohtani doesn't get better than that. I hope, obviously you don't want to see Trout run roughshod over the Tigers, but I hope he also doesn't look rusty. I hope it's a competitive weekend because he's a lot of fun to watch. And obviously it doesn't get any better than watching Ohtani play. So, that's the good. It's making me look forward to a weekend of Tiger baseball that, with a 45 and 75 record, you gotta find reasons to want to be there. and the Angels are one of them. So that's good. We already talked about my bad being good. We talked about the Michael Harris contract earlier. So that was my middle one here. It's just so interesting. The Braves are able to carve out those agreements. I saw a list of the guys that they have locked up. I mean, it was stretching out to 2030 now. So, I mean, they have a lot of their stars really in place for a long time. Pretty impressive. Only reason I put under the bad, I'm not convinced 100% that it's the best deal for the player. I certainly don't think it was for Ozzie Albies. I think Michael Harris did a little better than Albies did. The ugly, we already talked about as well. I was going to talk about the 8th inning last night with the bloopers and the swinging bunt. But I think, again, the biggest point to make is there. If this was a pennant race season, that would have been a mighty devastating loss. And now it's just when you kind of smirked and kind of forgot about it an hour later. So maybe that's ugly. Maybe that's the ugly part in itself, is that they could lose a heartbreaker like that. And you're like, well, here's what it is.
Yeah. And it's again, yesterday when I watched the highlight of it all, it was just I was taking it back a little bit. Like, what are you going to do? At some point, you just have to, hopefully you've seen everything, and that's exactly what's going on. So my good this week involves a guy who the Tigers have seen quite a bit of and probably don't want to see him anymore. Michael, I like that comment in the section. It felt like a Metrodome game, and he's absolutely right.
Yeah.
I did not miss that place, even as much as the Lions when I watched the Lions play the Vikings too. Same thing. Just hate that place. Andres Jimenez has had a really good month of August for the Guardians. He's got a WRC plus over 203, and he feasted on Tigers pitching, and he's now alongside with Jose Ramirez, another Tiger killer, and he is a very good player. And really, it's credit to the Guardians, who, by the way, came in top 5 among baseball systems and Baseball America's prospect systems. They are number 3 or number 4. So they didn't make a lot of moves in the offseason, but it didn't matter because they looked eternal and was able to solve their issues. As far as my bag goes, one of the things that I was looking at in terms of the midseason organization ranks is the rest of the AL Central. Now, the reason why I mentioned that is because Cleveland comes in at number 3. So then the next highest AL Central team belongs to the White Sox at number 24. The Whites and then Twins at number 25, and the Tigers at number 27. And then the Royals are 30th. Ooh. So that's bad. And the reason why that's bad is because it's bad but good for the Tigers. So the Tigers could capitalize on this and maybe make something of it and allow them to, whoever the next GM is going to be, to whoever they're going to sign players, whatever, it'll allow them that division flexibility. The problem is with the new schedule, we're not going to get 19 games against division opponents either. So we're going to see more of a balanced schedule. But either way, to see that's just horrible. And the ugly goes to the whole Fernando Tatis testing thing. Just, and look, it was funny. Like some of the, like Mike Clevenger was talking how selfish it was, but like Clevenger's also made some decisions that have been questionable too. But we're not going to call him out on that. But yeah, it was for his ability and what have you. It is the big disappointment for Padre fans across the board. I just saw him play. He was doing batting practice here in Comerica Park when the Padres were in town a couple of weeks ago, and yeah, again, it's just staying on the whole thing, and it's just ugly for Padre fans. So that is my good, the bad, and ugly for this week. So we do have some questions. Waiting for Chris to get here because I do have to take off here in a minute, but we'll answer some questions. As we did, go ahead.
A thing that also I found out this week, maybe others already knew this, with the draft lottery. As far as I can determine, it's possible the Tigers could fall as many as 6 spots. Does that sound right to you? If it went completely wrong?
If it went completely wrong, yeah, I believe that would be it. Because if memory serves me correctly, if it's the same kind of situation like the NBA and the NHL, then yeah, that it would fall in the same kind of line. Wow. Yeah.
So if they finish with the 3rd worst record, they could end up picking 10th. Obviously, that's not likely, but that's a long way to fall.
Yeah, you know what though, Yooper, nothing surprises me anymore because I mean, look at, for example, in the '90s, the Magic got I think it was like 3 times they got the number 1 pick overall. Like, how many times
Yeah.
does a team need to get the number 1 pick? And then Cleveland, after LeBron James, mysteriously they get the number 1 pick.
Okay.
Well,
you know, the thing about it is, to me, is, and I haven't been able to find this answer out, but I'm assuming if you fall from 3 to, let's say, 9 or 8, that's a big chunk of bonus pool money, that they can spread around to the other picks. So that they'd be losing a lot of cash there, not just draft position. So that's going to be interesting. I mean, obviously, it could work out. They could end up with the number 1 pick, and that'd be wonderful. But it's going to be something to watch.
Yeah, I think that, again, how the lottery. I love to see the actual like math behind it, like, or just put a bunch of names in a paper and a hat, just do it that way. It's just like each time just go with the team. But yeah, that's too practical and doesn't it makes too much sense. So they're not gonna do it. But so we did get a couple questions and we're gonna answer them too. Chris just text. Chris is just gonna be here in a few minutes. He will be here the rest of this podcast, however long we decide to go. These 2 gentlemen will go. But so we did get a couple from Tom Lacombe and a couple we addressed already. First and foremost, all the pitching injuries, how many starters do we expect to need before next season starts? And there was Michael Mayer in our chat mentioned Fado, Elvin Rodriguez, which I freely admit that's me. I forgot about him. Austin Bergner. There's a couple of guys to consider. It might be a wide open camp for the back end of the spot, but I think I still think they need to get another veteran starter. Can't go in there with
at the very minimum they have to get this year's version of Michael Pineda.
Yeah,
I mean, whoever that ends up being,
or slightly better,
right? But look, I mean, someone like that, a veteran who's had some relative success and has a live arm. I mean, that's Pineda. Obviously, we knew he'd go on the IL once or twice because that's what he's done his whole life, and sure enough, he has. Hopefully, they can find something a little better. But also hopefully they can find a mid-rotation guy. I mean, a real legit starter
that can eat up some innings. Yeah, that'd be fantastic. As far as the next questions go, is Cool Ball going to get canned? I have no idea. I'd like to think that if there was going to be some changes where they have to go, okay, we're going to force the issue, then he would probably be it. To say if Hinge is not going anywhere, then somebody else would have to go to sacrifice the bloodlust, the bloodlust sacrifice. Yooper.
Yeah. It's just I would like to know more about Hinch and Coolball's relationship. How joined at the hip are they? How much have they worked together? How long they've known each other? Because a lot of managers can be really, really loyal to position coaches. But to me, I don't know. I'm going to bet he stays. I don't think it's always a good look when managers are jettisoning coaches. I don't think that does anything for their long-term stability. I think they like to keep the club close knit. Although when I say that, Leland bailed on Don Slott fast, so who knows?
That's true. I mean, and then we saw that Andy Van Slyke left the staff after a year or two,
right?
So it could be the case. I mean, that's a different situation altogether. But so John Gonzalez, who is a good friend of the show, who has been, I mean, he worked at MLive for a while now. He's the co-host of Behind the Mitten. So it's a podcast that involves dedicating himself to just looking at stuff on the UP and here as well. So John is a good guy. He's used to be, he had one job one year where he was going around checking all the best pizza places. So I envy his work, and that's a good guy. So goes back to my GR days. Where do you see from the Tigers in the last month of the season? Does Spencer Torkelson get another chance in the majors this season? And Yooper, I think he will get another shot. I think either him or Kreidler will get a call up at some point. As far as this month goes, I'm going to go anything goes. Anything.
Well, we got 42 games left. If I give you an over-under on wins at 14.5, what do you got?
I'm going to go over.
Over?
I think over. Not by much. But
so like 16 and 26 or something like that from here.
Yeah, because I think with Eduardo Rodriguez coming back, that makes a difference. And you're going to run into teams that, I mean, Kansas City's been.
Yeah.
You're going to run into, I think the Tigers are going to see some. At this point, there's some players that are playing for their next contract. Or
sure.
like Candelario getting tendered or not, those kind of things. Yep. So. This month has been bad, but I think for whatever reason, September, the Tigers tend to kind of, even in their bad years, do okay. So
yeah, I was going to say over as well, but also not by a lot. But I could see them winning 15 to 17 more games. Going 17 and 25 or 15 and 27, whatever. That seems like they could do it. They can muscle up and do that. In terms of Torkelson, once the Mudhead season is done, why shouldn't he come up and play another 10 games for the Tigers?
Keep in mind, though, Yooper, the Toledo season ends, I think, a week before.
They extended it, didn't they?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, then maybe not. They didn't tell us the exact – they said they had a plan for sending him to Toledo, right? There were things he had to achieve. That there were benchmarks or whatever the word was that Hinch used. Do you think he's met any of them? I don't know. I mean, last night he had a double, a single, and he got robbed of a homer, right? So that was a good game, but he's had a lot of bad games too.
Okay. Well, either way, as far as we did get a couple more questions, but I think we're going to hold off on that till next time. We're going to wrap it up because I do have to get going, unfortunately. But Chris was not able to make it. And we'll probably end up doing something else on Sunday. We're going to do a minor league recap Sunday. So we'll get to all the questions we missed today. So I know we have a couple more. I know that we have Mark, who's a good listener. So, Yooper, if you want to join us on Sunday for the minor league recap, by all means, you're more than welcome to.
Okay. Yeah, we'll talk. That'd be fun.
We'll talk about that. So we'll be back on Sunday. And Xavier Bogarts, because I think that's a good, and we'll address everybody else's questions as well. So again, thank you so much for listening to the pod. I'll be back at full steam with vacation stuff. I'm still catching up, but thanks everybody for tuning in tonight and participating on YouTube chat. And you guys have a great evening. We'll talk to you soon.